So, I sat down and watched Prey and I thought it was pretty dang good. I definitely wouldn't say it was a perfect movie by any means, but there were a lot of things that I think deserved praise. That said, the overall tone that I've been picking up around the campfire is that Prey is an amazing film that really blazed a trail for the franchise in a lot of ways. Before writing this review, I took a moment to look at Rotten Tomatoes, and Arnie is not going to be happy about this one. It's my theory that people are giving this movie such high praise because it wasn't a dumpster fire like the last few entries in the franchise. Do I think it was better than the original? Not necessarily, but I believe it gives respect to the beloved alien hunter that's been long overdue. I think it's worth noting that this movie was surprisingly beautiful. There were shots that made me think to myself, wow, I should really go camping. And other shots that made me think,
damn, nature, you scary!
The movie takes its time setting up the world around it, and while I think that's important and necessary, it felt like it lingered a bit too long. There were times where the movie felt like it was really dragging for me. Perhaps it was done with the idea to build tension or suspense, but I imagine most people are coming into this movie already knowing what a predator is and what its motives are. Just for simple contrast, in the first Predator he used a lot of ambush tactics and isn't really shown until later in the movie. I definitely think that this was intended to let the mind wander and build up a genuine fear for the audience while they try to figure out what is going on alongside the characters of the film. Here in Prey, the Predator doesn't really become a threat till much later in order to establish that it won't hurt anything that isn't deemed a threat. It kills a snake after seeing the snake eat a mouse, it kills a wolf before catching up to a bunny, it kills a bear hunting a person, etc. At first, this kind of annoyed me. It seemed like it took a bit too long to really get things going. The snake and bear kills were both done in ways that allow the protagonist Naru to piece together what was really going on, but as an audience member already knowing what's happening, it just felt tedious. However, thinking back on it, I do appreciate how it seems to be showing that the Predator was working his way up the food chain, so to speak. We start with the snake, then a wolf, then a bear, then a group of Comanche with bows and spears, and ultimately French trappers who have guns. While I can't appreciate the nuance of the Predator working its way up the totem pole, I couldn't help but have this nagging thought of get on with it. That said, once it finally ramps up to 11, Prey delivers pretty well. In other movies, the Predator kind of uses ambush tactics like an actual hunter, but here we get to see it in all its glory, fighting face to face and using all kinds of interesting and unique weaponry. This was just a little thing, but I thought it was great to actually see the Predator get hurt. He gets beat down by the bear, he takes hits from people fighting him, but he still pushes through. We see the Predator get injured in other movies, but this seemed just so much more personal. Watching him struggle in his hunt made it a lot more interesting than just blasting someone with his shoulder cannon 20 feet away. There was a particular ferocity as it fought, and it's only fitting that this Predator in the movie is known as a feral predator. I think this is probably why most people loved the movie. It really gives the spotlight to the hunter. That said, this is where I start to have complaints, because even though our antagonist was solid, I think the protagonist falls short. I don't think Naru is a very compelling lead. And from what I've seen from other reviews, this seems to be a bit of a hot take. On top of that, besides her brother, there are really no notable characters. In comparison to the first movie, there was an array of characters, all unique with differing personalities and a sense of individuality. Here, there's Naru, her brother, and then what seems to be nameless predator fodder. Normally I'd have no problem with this because the more kills the better, right? But Naru just left me wanting a bit more. She's established as a girl who doesn't want to fall into the conformity of just being a gatherer like the other women of the tribe, but rather yearns to be a hunter. Unfortunately, she struggles to kill anything and gets treated like she's the only girl in a gaming lobby.
Who invited you? We won't be gone long enough to need a cook.
Don't get me wrong, I think this is a great jumping point for Naru. It even parallels the narrative of the Predator. She wants to prove herself by hunting something that's hunting her, which they refer to as Katamiya, which seems to be some kind of hunting rite of passage. Again, all of this seems like great foundation to give her a compelling sense of purpose, but when directly asked why she wants to hunt instead of just conforming to the norm, she responds with, and I quote, "Because you all think that I can't." This is just missed opportunity. It's indirectly stated that her father is dead. I think it could have been much more gripping if he would have died protecting her from some ferocious animal, and in turn, she grew up deciding that she'd rather be a predator than prey, with the ultimate motivation of protecting the tribe from danger. Especially since the ending of the movie, she's elected to war chief after her brother's death and ultimately stopping the most dangerous threat of all, the predator. Having some deeper motivation for our main hero would have taken this movie from being pretty good to great. Sure, these guys suck, and just because she's a woman doesn't mean that she can't be a great hunter. I totally agree with that. But where I fall off is when the core of her character is, "Don't put me in a box," and the ending is, "See, I told you so," rather than her protecting lives like her father hypothetically could have with her. For all intents and purposes, this really is a fun movie, and I think it does justice to the franchise. It wasn't extremely scary for me simply because it's a standard Predator story, and I figure if someone isn't the main character and they're a threat, then they're probably going to die. It really doesn't reinvent the wheel here. The themes mirrored between the Comanche hunting rite of passage and the Predator's hunting was a really interesting theme that ultimately I think could have been explored more. They just kind of said cut to Mia a lot and gave the basic definition of it. All of that said, it definitely scratched the itch of yearning to see the Predator in action with some interesting weapons and some brutal kills. Is this movie going to change your life? Probably not. Is it a fun movie to watch when you're sifting through hundreds of movies online? I'd say so. Hey, thanks so much for watching the video. As always, I'd love to hear your opinions of the movie in the comments. Make sure to check back in the future for more reviews. Peace out.